Today, I have found hands down the craziest trade I've seen all year long. In this video, we're going to cover a $133 million trade that is going to blow your mind. Stick with us to the end of today's video. This trade is literally insane. We're also going to cover what happened in the stock market today and the important things you need to know throughout the rest of this week. Tomorrow is going to be crazy. Tom, looking at the heat map today, we saw a sea of red in falling stocks, except for one of them, and that's good old Meta that was up 5%. So, Tom, what is going on in this crazy market?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, Mike. Like you said, Meta was the one little speck of green today, but we saw stocks really sell down today as the midterms are still up in the air right now. A lot of these races are very close to call. So it looks like even in Georgia, that one's going to go off into a runoff election. So there's a lot of stuff going on here over the next couple of days. They need to get this count done and over with so the market can finally have some certainty, because as we know, Mike, the market does not like uncertainty. But like you said, Mike, Meta had a very, very nice day today, ending up closing up very high here, all the way up to 105 at the high of day. They actually had some pretty bad news. So they're going to be laying off 13% of their staff, more than 11,000 employees. I will say Zuckerberg did admit that he had a lot to do with a lot of the recent downtrend. Obviously, Meta has been kind of spending a lot on the future. They've been investing a lot every single year into the metaverse. As of this year, they've already invested billions and billions of dollars. So it's insane, Mike. But in the end, Meta ended up going up. I know a lot of people might think that those job cuts are bad, but this is going to save Meta money in the long term.
No doubt. So yeah, Meta actually did pretty good today in terms of the stock performance. Like I said, it was basically the only stock green today. Meta has been falling so much over the past year, where I just feel like investors are actually just kind of liking the sign that the management at Meta is doing something to stop the bleeding. Even though they have to lay off thousands of their workforce, it's like, I feel like investors are just like, it's time that the management finally did something. And I think that's why the stock ultimately ended up popping up on a day where everything else tanked.
Yeah, exactly, Mike. And it's a really good thing for investors. They're going to really try to get these costs under control. Zuckerberg put out a big letter, Mike. You guys can go check it out if you want. He did say, though, that they've been making some of the most difficult changes that they've made in Meta's history. So obviously, whenever you make some very difficult changes, there is short-term shakeups. And I think that that's all Meta's having right now. I'm a shareholder for them, Mike. I like them, and I'll keep averaging into them for the longer term, because I think that the metaverse will end up being really big here over the next couple of years.
And another thing too is Meta, even though they're struggling a lot in terms of recent stock performance, they are actually very strong fundamentally. So that's another important thing to keep in mind as well going forward. But Tom, looking at the stock market tomorrow, it's been a wild week so far, but we have some very important data set to release tomorrow before open. What is on the schedule?
Yeah, this is going to be huge, Mike. So this might even shake up the markets more than the midterms did today. If this number comes in worse, obviously worse in this case would be higher than expected. Good would be coming in lower than expected. You can see that the consensus is 8%. The forecast is 8.1%, which is below the previous number of 8.2% on that inflation rate. You can see the core numbers right below it, but these are going to be coming out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. We really need to see this inflation rate start to fall down, and I think that that will end up impacting the dollar and yields, rates, bonds. Pretty much everything in the market obviously will be impacted by this, since the Feds have been watching this like a hawk.
So the reason tomorrow is so important is because, like Tom said, we have inflation data set to be released 1 hour before market open. We all know inflation has been brutal over the past year, and it is a very, very important part of the stock market and the economy as a whole. We need inflation to come down, and we need it to start coming down quicker than it has over the past couple months. We can see inflation actually peaked around 9.1% earlier, or I guess you could say in the middle of this year. here around June. The most recent reading was 8.2%, and we need to see this inflation data continue to come down. If inflation data does not continue to come down, there will likely be more increased selling pressure in the stock market overall, and the Federal Reserve will continue to increase their interest rate hikes at a very strong pace, which will just slow the economy even more. So the main thing you need to know, tomorrow before market open, we have inflation data set to be released. 1 hour before open, we need that inflation data to come down, or else it will be a bad sign.
Yeah, it definitely will. And looking at the market for tomorrow morning, I noticed the SPY ran right down to that big support here, right around 374. If we do end up breaking that in after hours tonight or in pre-market tomorrow with this news coming out, I'll definitely be watching the SPY more to the downside, especially with all the downwards movement that we saw with the midterms. But keep in mind, guys, if some of these races with the midterms do start getting called, we might see the market, turn around depending on who wins. So just keep that in mind too. There's a lot of outliers out there. Be very careful with volatility. I will say, Mike, I was a very big watcher of SPXS today, and I'm really going to keep my eyes on this if the market keeps going down over the next few days, because this thing can have some really nice moves to the upside.
Absolutely. So if you guys think the stock market will fall, check out SPXS. This stock is up 6% today. Basically, this stock does the exact opposite of the stock market overall into the magnitude of 3. So if the stock market is down, let's say 2% today, SPXS will be up 6%. So it does the exact opposite and then times 3. When everyone else is selling stocks overall, SPXS could be a pretty solid short-term trade, as it tends to pop up quite a bit. But Tom, you mentioned volatility going throughout the rest of this week. Earnings have been pretty crazy over the past week. What else do we have on the schedule?
Yeah, so tomorrow morning, we're actually going to see NIO report, which is going to be very interesting to me, especially given that they're over in China. I know China has they've had a lot of stuff this year with COVID lockdowns and stuff like that. I'm interested to see how NIO ends up reporting. I'm hoping that they do pretty well, but obviously that's very up in the air given it's a China stock. And then tomorrow and after hours, we have Matterport and Aora Cannabis, or ACB. I know a lot of people are still watching those cannabis stocks. They didn't move too well today with the midterms going on, but a few states did legalize it, like Missouri and Michigan at least.
Good stuff. Alrighty, so Tom, it is now time for some good plays to watch for the rest of this week. One of the top stocks I'm watching is SLV. This is, it basically tracks silver prices, and I've seen a lot of good smart money trades into precious metals over the past couple of weeks. The dollar has been falling, and that's a good sign for silver. Silver has also had a relatively mediocre performance this year, and it is starting to trend up in a pretty strong way recently. So I'm watching for SLV to pop to the upside. It's not necessarily a trade only for tomorrow, as this one tends to trend over the course of multiple days and even multiple weeks. So either way, it's on my watch list to the upside.
Yeah, me too, Mike. It is right at a big resistance too, so I'll really be watching it to maybe start to pop back up. I know today a lot of these metals ended up pulling back, but like we keep talking about, the midterms can definitely change things over the next couple days. And I know that dollar had a very interesting morning. It really fell down at first and then started ripping back up. So I thought that was pretty interesting for the metals market too. But one big stock that I'm watching today, now guys, don't hate me for this one because I love Tesla just as much as the next guy, but Tesla is really selling off here. I noticed this today. A lot of people were talking about it. Tesla's below a huge support at $200. It is a very big level. You can see here Tesla's at lows of the year. And Mike, it even looks like they're at a new low going all the way back to November of 2020. So they're definitely on a sell-off. I'm going to watch for Tesla puts over the next couple days. Elon obviously came out today and sold, what was it, Mike? Like 3.9 billion shares, I think it was.
$3.9 billion worth of Tesla stock has been sold by Elon Musk.
Yeah, $3.9 billion worth of Tesla stock. So that is huge there. A big sell by Elon. And I know he promised that he wouldn't sell any more Tesla stock. So that's that obviously is a big thing for investors. I think a lot of people are going to start to lose trust in this. Really keep your eyes also on TSLQ. This is actually an ETF that inverses Tesla pretty much. You can see it was up quite a bit today, opening up around 56.60 and closing all the way up at $60 as Tesla sold off.
Very interesting. Another play that I'm watching is TLT. And I know this is kind of a boring play, but tomorrow it will be interesting. And here's why. Basically, what this represents is longer dated treasury yields. Inflation data has a very big impact on treasury yields. So basically, as we have a giant event with inflation tomorrow before open, TLT will likely move in a big way. I'm leaning for TLT to move to the upside, but it is also very, very possible for it to tank down in a big way. Either way, for tomorrow, I'm looking for a big move. If I see TLT start to fly up and I see a bunch of buying pressure flow into it, I will definitely be more biased towards the upside. At the same time, if I see TLT sell off in a major way, on news that inflation is much worse than expected, that would be a great opportunity for TLT to the downside. Like I said, I hope TLT pops up, but I'm also prepared to trade it to the downside in the event it sells off.
Yeah, and Mike, we talked about that big call debit spread yesterday for January 20th, 2023. Someone put $3.96 million into that TLT spread where they wanted to close between 103 and 113 there. I drew the range on the chart so you guys can see that. Hopefully this CPI reading helps this one pop up. And hey, at least there's some big money flowing in here. So I know a lot of big money. They love to trade TLT and get into those plays with rates and stuff. So that'll be pretty big, Mike. Another big one I'm watching is AMD. This one is moving down right now. It is actually approaching a pretty big trend line here that it has been bouncing off of over the past couple of weeks, couple of months. And when I'm looking at AMD, I'm really going to keep looking at it to the downside. We're right on a $60 support. If we start to sell off under 60, I think it might continue down. You know, AMD, when I look at it on the daily chart, Mike, this looks like a very typical dead cat bounce setup. It's not really getting any good momentum to the upside, and it's just following that lower trend. So if we start to break below that, I think AMD could start to fall more towards the bottom of my range down here, maybe around 45 or 40.
Awesome. All right, Tom, you know what time it is. Momentum plays. With the first one, we have Roblox to the downside.
Yeah, RBLX. What a bad day for them with earnings. Go ahead and make them break right below $30.50.
All right, with the next one, we actually have AMD, just like you were saying, also to the downside.
Yeah, so for tomorrow, if they break below 59.80, watch that push down. That'll be right below that 60 support.
All right, and then with the last one, we have Meta, but to the upside.
Meta, there we go. If this one could get a multi-day continuation, I'd be very, very happy. Make them break the intraday resistance right around 102.30.
All right, so we're watching Meta for potential day trade to the upside tomorrow, only if it breaks above the level Tom listed. And then we are watching AMD and Roblox for potential day trades to the downside tomorrow, only if they break below the levels Tom listed. Tom, I'm very excited for tomorrow and the rest of the week. I think there's going to be a bunch of great momentum and opportunity all across the board. And I'm especially excited for tomorrow because I have to talk about hands down the craziest trade I've seen all year long. And that has to do with WBD, okay? Warner Bros. Discovery. This trade is truly insane. So basically today I'm looking through some option order flow and I see a $133 million trade. And I'm going to warn you guys now, it's a little bit advanced. It's an advanced options trade, but I'm going to break it down in a simple way. Basically, some hedge fund or someone with a ton of money is making a bet where they will be obligated to buy 14 million shares. Not $14 million worth, but 14 million shares of WBD at $9.50 per share if WBD is at $9.50 per share or below that on December 23rd. At the same time, they have the right to buy 11 million shares of WBD at $10 per share, and they could exercise that whenever they want. So for those of you who are a little bit more advanced with the options trading side of things, basically what the smart money did in this situation is they shorted the $9.50 strike put option for December 23rd of 2022. At the same time, they bought the WBD 10 strike call options for December 23rd of 2022. So I know there's a lot of advanced terminology and all that stuff being thrown around right now. Long story short, someone with a ton of money is making a very bullish trade on WBD stock to rise up by December 23rd of 2022. In the event WBD does not rise up, they will be forced to buy 14 million shares of this company at $9.50 each. They want the stock to go as high as possible. And from my calculations, if the stock simply goes back up to $13 per share, they would be set to make $36 million.
Yeah, that is a huge trade, Mike. Like you said, it is pretty complicated. So guys, if you have to, don't feel bad. Just rewind the video and watch it back. Obviously, it is pretty complex, but I think you guys will get it after a little while. And we do have a lot of videos out as well about spreads and stuff like that. We'll go ahead and throw one or two down in the comment section for you guys. But looking at WBD, Mike, it is definitely low this year. This is a pretty cool trade. And what I like about it is it almost reminds me of a trade kind of like Meta. WBD is falling down a lot right now. And I feel like that, like when I look at Meta, it obviously had a really bad move down with earnings as well. And sometimes whenever you see these overextended moves down, you see small pops back to the upside. And I think that WBD has a really good chance of that here. So what a play. That's a lot of money, Mike. And wow, if that gets up to 13 and what do you say again? 36 million?
36 million just for a move back to 13.
Yeah, just for a move to 13, guys. That's not even that far away. The recent upper resistance was more around like 1330, even more up around 14. So pretty crazy.
Exactly. So it is truly a crazy play. What I also like about this is WBD is a stock that I own for the long term and a stock that I think is trading at an amazing valuation. I'm very excited for this trade. It's truly crazy. Not every day do you see a hedge fund make a trade this big and this biased. You know what I mean? So it's truly crazy. Like I said, they want WBD to go up. So take this information as you guys wish. I'm pumped for it. I think it's a pretty solid trade, and I'm very excited to see how it plays out.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to go ahead and paste this here. If you guys want to go ahead and screenshot this, this is exactly what they're doing right here. They're shorting the 9.5 puts, and they're longing the $10 calls if you guys wanted to screenshot that, just so you could save it for future reference. But Mike, there's a lot of big things for the rest of the market. I know we've talked about a lot of crazy stuff here. I'm really hoping that the SPY can start to move back up. Maybe we can get a trend reversal if these midterms end up coming in favorably for the market. But as of right now, it's not really looking like it. I'm really going to be watching for that big move down tomorrow. And like I talked about earlier, I'm going to keep my eyes on SPXS. I think that'll be a pretty good ETF if the market keeps selling.
Sounds great. So if you guys learned something from this video, make sure to subscribe. We post brand new videos every single day, and we cover some sort of whale or hedge fund trade in every single nightly video. So if you subscribe, you'll see our videos more often. We go over crazy trades every single day, and we cover exactly what you need to know going into the market tomorrow. So make sure to subscribe if you're new. We also want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, your boy Dan in the Stocked Up Discord. You've been in the chat for over 2 years now, and you just got back from your break. So welcome back. Definitely keep up all of that great activity. I'm super excited for the rest of the week. We have key inflation data set to release tomorrow, a couple big earnings sprinkled in, and of course some crazy trades over the past week itself. So I'm pumped. I'm so excited for the market going forward. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and let's end the week strong.